And we're back on the A-list lowdown coming at you May 9th, 2025 with banned ballots and inclusivity connecting with nature.
Inclusively.
Inclusively?
Yeah.
Is that the same sort of shit as inclusivity? Is this some inclusive?
It's just it's the action, the verb part, I guess, right? It'd be as a verb
The verb?
or an adjective, maybe.
Um
Inclusively, like I'm doing something inclusively.
No, the connecting would be the verb. So it'd be an adverb, wouldn't it?
We
All
should
right.
have got into this. We're not experts. We have not been there.
Welcome back to the show, guys. I'm gonna jump right into it. With this
You
one.
are?
Yep.
Ugh, I was going to.
Oh well. You snooze, you lose,
So
Grandma.
I'll wait. I guess I'll wait with mine. I mean,
You probably have this one, so I
All
want
right.
to get it in first.
all right, okay. Let's do this.
I wanna
So
get
we'll
your
go one at a time then.
We'll go back tit for tat.
Oh, we're gonna do it that way? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so ballot should not have been rejected. Windsor judge orders recount of election results. Now, I want to go through this. I think this one's going to end up benefiting the Liberals if it happens. If I don't know,
Windsor, Ontario, or
Liberal Eric Grimericans R. What's that mean? What's an R?
Republican?
We don't have Republicans. Oh, conservative Kathy Borey.
Liberal.
And liberal Eric Grimericans. Oh, so that's left and right. Okay, so
Left.
election.
Oh, right.
So this is the conservative chick, and this is the liberal dude. Looks like he's gonna pop. Elections Canada will recount the ballots in the riding of Windsor, Tecumseh, Lakeshore, WTL, following a 1-hour hearing in Superior Court Friday. What? Tecumseh?
No?
You can't tell an Indian how to say Indian words? You son of a bitch.
I thought it was Tecumseh.
Former Liberal MP Eric Grimericans lost the riding to the Conservative candidate Kathy Borelli by 77 votes.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this one.
The initial count had the difference at 233. Grimericans' lawyer, Jeffrey Hewitt, argued some ballots should not have been rejected. Those are where the problems lie, Hewitt said, advising the court that 536 votes were dismissed by Elections Canada employees. Now, this is not going to do this thing, but there's a few other.
Hang on a sec. Where's this one at? I thought you said it
was
was
in Ontario, I think.
No, I know, but I thought you said it was. It's not Milton East, Halton Hills South, is it?
No.
I thought you said it was in Windsor.
Yeah, it is Windsor. Windsor, Tecumseh Lakeshore.
Dude.
So 500. Let me finish this, and then I want to talk to you about this because I think that this has probably implications all across the country. Those are where the problems lie, Hewitt said, advising the court that 536 votes were dismissed by Elections Canada employees. Hewitt cited the affidavits of 14 experienced scrutineers, one of whom took pictures of rejected ballots, while all others were asked by the lawyers to recreate what they observed. In at least 6 cases, a voter put an X in the circle beside Grimericans and a check mark on the other side of his name of the ballot. Another scrutineer saw a ballot with a check mark in Grimericans' circle and the words, "I vote for Eric" written on the ballot. Another wrote the word liberal. Court learned another ballot was rejected because a check for the People's Party of Canada candidate Nick Babbitt had a tail that moved down into the circle below. Hewitt also told Justice Ross McFarlane that in 3 examples, the form with the final results for WTL either didn't include Grimericans' vote totals or were otherwise incomplete. In another example, 2 people counting the votes at one poll couldn't get the total number of votes to balance with the total number of ballots issued. We're not here to beat out the people filling out the forms, Hewitt said, noting that all 4 affidavits were from experienced scrutineers who the 14. Court had no reason to deny their credibility. Court learned the bar for approving a judicial recount is a low threshold. There's 2 basic principles. Is there anything on the ballot that specifically identifies the person casting the ballot? And second, are the markings on the ballot sufficient to demonstrate the intention of the voter? After hearing all of Hewitt's evidence, the judge ordered a recount of all the ballots.
Of all of them? Wow.
Well, just in that riding.
Well, yeah.
So I don't have the comments here, but I was reading some of the comments, and they're like, so they denied a bunch of these ballots because Buddy wrote, a check on one side and a thing on the other.
Well,
Yeah.
that's different than writing liberal. I mean, if you can't put an X in the circle and you write liberal, then that should not be you can't just write the
No, they
name
did.
of the
They did
federal
both.
party.
They
I
did
don't think
both.
they did on the liberal, writing the liberal down. I mean,
Let me see what it says here. Let's
as
see.
if they would allow if somebody wrote conservative on the ballot without an X in the circle. I mean,
A check mark in Kismeric circle and the words "I vote for Arik" written on the ballot. Another wrote the word "liberal." So I don't know if that's just liberal or the check mark. I would say if the check mark is there, it should be fine, right?
it's not a check, it's an X, right?
Or whatever. Check
well,
X.
no, I mean you're supposed to do an X, right? I mean, there's got to be a way that this is standardized, right? Are you allowed to
I
put
think a
checks
check mark's
everywhere
fine.
and
I think
X's?
you're allowed a check
What
mark. I think a check mark,
is okay?
even a line. I mean, as long as it's like through the one that you want to vote for.
You're
I
just
mean, you
opening up
probably
a can of
shouldn't.
worms then.
You probably shouldn't write on your ballot, but I think if you put like a star on the other side of them, it's not like it doesn't. The only way the ballot should be tossed is if you're not sure what the fuck it's for. It's like it's messed up enough.
Well, no. You shouldn't be writing anything in there either, right? I mean, if it's got a thing in the circle and something else, then whatever, right? As long as it has something.
Yeah, that's
in
what I
the
mean. Is
circle.
if it has both. So if say you put a check mark and an
Yeah,
exclamation mark after Buddy's name or something like
that's
that,
fine. Yeah,
or go team or something like that, that should be fine, I think.
yeah.
So they're banning all these ballots for that. Now, this story that comes out is about liberal ones, but we know that other riding where the conservative lost, there was
Okay.
400 ballots that were thrown out in that one. Because I'm thinking, it seems like the conservative voters were, although they lost, were more excited about it.
Yeah. This
So I would
one here.
just say that there would probably be more of them that maybe put some Go Pierres or some stars on it or some, some hearts. Who knows? I mean, how many? I think that we should see the discarded ballots.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, it should be all open and transparent. I mean, I don't see why not. But so this is the one you're talking about, right? Milton East, Halton Hills South question. So this is the CPC won by 298, right? This is why I questioned you. I thought this was very weird. 536 was in your story and in this writing.
Interesting.
How crazy is that? The recount found, so they recounted it and found an extra 536 votes. Like, isn't that a little crazy that many votes would be found in a recount?
Seems like a lot.
Total votes rejected were 412. CPC loses 85 votes and LPC gains 242. So all of a sudden they find 500 more votes and it flips from the CPC only lost 85 and had 242 lead. Where did the other 536 votes come from, and why were they all for LPC? I mean, that's
the crazy thing. I mean, there are 100% of the recount votes are all for the other party. That's
no. It didn't say that. It said,
oh, okay.
CPC lost 85 and LPC gained 242, right? But that was just enough to bring them over the 300. Like it, they were down by 300, and then there's a swing 242 plus 85. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty close. Then there was this issue too, right? In Port Coquitlam, this guy found like there was a bunch of issues. They found 822 special ballots in boxes, and 530 of them were for Port Moody. But the Port Moody's, the Liberals won by 2,000 votes, I think. So this is only a quarter of the amount of the votes that the Liberals won by. But so that's not as controversial in my opinion.
No, but I just think we should see the banned ballots because there are like, when you're dancing this close to
well to a majority. If they flip a few more,
and I'm not even saying that Carney's going to be tyrannical, but it's just like that. Once you've got that majority government in the Canadian system, you fucking can do whatever you want. You've got more power than a president once you've got that locked in. So it's just like it's important than that thing. And there's like a dozen of these things I think I saw that were within a couple hundred votes. So how many got thrown out and why?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I did a count on the I just for the hell of it. I'm not going to really share it, but I did a count on the special ballots and then the ridings that those were in and which ridings came if the net win was less than the special ballots. Remember you said you'd get AI to do that or whatever. Well, I manually did it for you. And how many do you think applied to that scenario? Are you frozen? You're frozen, I think. You're frozen. I can't. You're staring at me. I think Darren's internet is. Oh, he's gone. All right. Well, my phone just went there, so we'll see what happens. But internet down. All right. I'm gonna keep this all. Geez, that's hard for me to go because I want him to be here to see the stuff that I'm going to present. But let me just see here what I can do. He's going to be coming in a sec here, so I'm going to. No, he says, okay, I'm going to play this clip that I saw online because I think it's worth highlighting, even though I'm not going to get Darren to.
Effective June the 1st.
So this is from Disrespected Trucker. Welcome to Communism Canada.
All vehicles manufactured before 2000 will be gradually phased off. Canadian roads, due to safety and emission standards, non-compliant window tints, including rear windows, are now prohibited. Drivers will have a 14-day grace period to install approved replacements. Lifts and or levels on trucks must be taken off. Only the owner's safety, but for the people around, it doesn't make sense to have a truck jacked in the air. These will be taken very seriously. And
so, again, fake, right? AI, do not spread this shit around. I mean, to me, this is getting crazy, right? It's welcome to Communist Canada. This guy, Disrespected Trucker, spreads this around. It goes viral for a bit. It's a complete AI thing.
You can tell.
Like what?
You can mostly tell. I mean, the boomers might not be able to tell.
No, people can't tell, man. They're like, oh my God, he's taking away our lifts and our tints and our truck.
Hey, Mom, are you still watching? Can you tell? Yeah. Can you tell that's fake?
Anyways, I just think if you're on our side, you want to make sure that it's known to be a parody or AI. Like, just make it known this is a spoof. Make it obviously a parody, but don't pretend it's real. It's just gonna poison the well. It's gross.
Well, I'm not saying that I disagree, but wouldn't that amount to some sort of censorship or?
No. I'm not saying. I'm just saying people be fucking smarter. We got to be able to ridicule assholes like this so that then they stop doing it.
I agree.
That's why I think that people shouldn't be allowed to be masked out in protests and stuff, because we should see their face so we can fucking ridicule them.
I was off the internet and I came back in when you were playing that clip and I was like, oh my God, please tell me he doesn't think this is real. Because you're like halfway to a boomer from me.
I'm almost a senior.
You're almost a senior. When can you start collecting that pension?
I think in 6 years I can start.
I mean, they say to wait, but if I were you, I would just start taking it right away. Because there's not going to be any.
I need every fucking penny I can get right now.
And it's not going to be around. You know what I mean? They're going to fucking piss it away. I mean, my truck's lifted and tinted. And I just got this big sticker for my back window.
Oh, nice. Awesome. So, anyways, what I was saying to you, but when you were staring at me and with this weird look is, I did that analysis of the special votes and the margin of the win. What?
The mail-ins?
Yeah, and the margin of the wins in each riding. So I calculated how many ridings.
Wait, you did it?
Manually, yes.
Not with that Grok or anything?
No, manually, yeah. They wouldn't. I tried with Grok. He
You tried,
wouldn't.
yeah.
He couldn't do it. It's like, I don't know how they're going to have these AI assistants to do all this administrative stuff when they can't even just do a simple calculation like that to manually go through.
Some things though, dude, like for web design, oh my God. I can just tell it what I want to happen and it'll give me the custom CSS code. It'll give me custom HTML code for embedding charts and all sorts of crazy stuff like that into websites.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Almost to the point you could just do your own websites because I mean, much of this website for the A-list was just like using AI to, because you run into these little problems and so you might like remember it took us forever to get rid of that title on Adult Brain.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, this is going on, man. What do I do? And it's like, do this.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's crazy how good it is at some things and how terrible it is at others.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't want it to make a map, but a YouTube thumbnail sounds great.
No, and it can hardly make art. When you try and correct the art, it just doesn't know what to do. It doesn't.
Can't make fine art, but it's great for like disposable art. Your YouTube thumbnails and your
if they get it right away. It's at least with Grok, it's hard to correct the. It's hard to.
I run specific image-based AI for my image stuff. I use this on Night Cafe usually for most of it because there's like a bunch of different models you can choose from. And all that, and then for like different stuff, I'll just stick with like for the A-list thumbnails, I use the typography model, and that way it just sort of starts adding, not total branding, but at least like some familiarity among it all because it's all generated with the same model.
Look, yeah. Night Cafe is what it's called.
I use Night Cafe, yeah. Honestly, I got into it mostly because the other one wouldn't do faces anymore. Like it wouldn't generate any like famous person's face or anything like that, which is fine. I mean, you can still do it and then you can just like crop in a face. It's easy enough to do nowadays with all the different tools, but then ChatGPT wouldn't. So it's actually been this weird thing where those two are going back and forth between, because ChatGPT I already got. So I'll just be like, have it spin 1 up and then I'll have the Night Cafe spin 4 up. And then I kind of have 5 to pick from.
Yeah.
And then you still might have to tweak them here. A lot of the times the spelling is wrong. So, but I mean, the revolution has been in like image editing. It's crazy. Like Canva is unbelievable how intuitive that is compared to trying to use Photoshop and Illustrator back in the day.
Yeah. So anyways, I manually went through this. So do you understand what I did? I took the overall mail-in ballots for each riding, right? The special ballots. And then I compared that to the win amount.
Margin of win.
The margin of the win. And there was 50, 61, 67 ridings that fell into that category.
That the mail-in was enough to swing it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's fucking 20%.
How many do you think were conservative?
1/3.
33 of them. So a half were conservative. 28 were liberal. 4 were NDP. So as a percentage, NDP had a pretty big percentage. 1 block and 1 green. So it was pretty spread out, almost 50-50 with the liberal and the conservatives. So I don't think any party has an argument either way on how that went.
Did you see the block guy was like, go for it, man, separate, but we want to get out first.
Did he say that?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well, he's like, you can't do it. You need a specific culture or you need a special culture or something.
Yeah, he was trolling mostly. He's like, but that's up to them to decide what that is. And I'm not going to stand in the way of the people. And I wouldn't like to see them get out, but we want to get out first.
Really? He said that?
That was the rest of that clip that everyone's. I mean, I can't help but like that fucking Frenchman, man. As much as Quebec drives me nuts, that Francois is my favorite politician. Even though that half the stuff or more than half the stuff that comes out of his mouth is ridiculous, he just does it with such a gusto that I can't help but admire the guy. Yeah. And in his second language.
Yeah. So, how's the Alberta separation thing going? I mean, I don't have a segment on this or anything like that, but I feel like it's getting. I feel like there's 5 or 6 different organizations doing it, and I can see why Daniel Smith is saying now that she doesn't want, like, let's say, the Buffalo Party to become a huge party and split the vote with the Conservatives. Like, this is the problem with the where we are.
Starting another party though. They're starting the Republican Party of Alberta or whatever it is. So I mean,
That's what I'm getting at. There's
Yeah.
that too, right? So, and then now that's at a risk of, if you have 4 or 5 or 6
they
of these.
could fuck it up. They could fuck the whole province up.
You won't let me finish my thought.
I know.
Yeah, they'll just split all the votes, right? So now 5 of them will get 100,000, and nobody will get 170,000 or whatever.
Well, that's why we have the UCP, right? Because we lost to the NDP because they split the vote between the other two, whatever it was. Then maybe the PCs or the Wild Rose or whatever it was. I can't remember.
Right, that's how the
There were
NDP
two
got it.
conservative parties that split the vote, the conservative vote, and then the NDP got it.
And we were in such a weird polarized time that there really is 2 ideologies. There's 2 main ideologies. So we should just go into 2. It should just be 2 parties. I mean, we need to figure out how to split people up here, split things up, because it's just
Because if you split it, we could be in trouble.
yeah. That's a really good point. Huh. All right. Keep going, or I can go.
I'm gonna go to this one, over to your old stomping grounds in Vancouver.
Oh, the human waste. Nice. I was hoping
Frustrations rise over human waste on Vancouver streets, prompting the return of the Poop Ferry program. Have you heard of the Poop Ferry program?
Not specifically. I don't think I ever heard the name. I kind of just glanced at this and didn't read it.
Well, let's get to it.
I saw the memes, basically.
It is a true city dweller skill to be capable of walking while simultaneously engaging in conversation, scanning the pavement ahead, and being prepared with the stealth of an assassin to sidestep, dive, or change course at a mere moment's notice. Abandoned dog mess on urban streets is an issue common in cities across the world. But in Vancouver, the obstacle course that awaits unsuspecting pedestrians is unique in that there's a layer of extra difficulty not typically found elsewhere. As public defecation in the city reaches new heights, residents, business owners, and business improvements, areas leaders are calling for action that goes beyond the routine cleanups. What is it with the West Coast and shitting in the streets? I mean,
it's because they don't, because they allow people to fucking live on the streets. I mean, where else are they going to shit? I mean, this is the problem with the way things are going, right? This is another reason why people should be kind of like gently forced to fucking get off the streets,
or to just round it up and put in those FEMA camps until they get back.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to be like, balanced here. And
that's pretty balanced. I didn't say kill them. I said round them up, put them in the FEMA camps, let them get back on their feet, get clean, send them back out.
Yeah.
Or just put them in. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Maybe just let them stay on the
road. Fine though. It's dirty and unsafe. I'm sure it's unsafe. As far as harm reduction goes, it's harming the fucking community. Why don't they deal with that? They just want to make sure that they want the rights of the addict to be upheld before the rights of all the people in the neighborhood. It's disgusting.
And some motherfucker gets stabbed in the neck for asking him not to vape by his kid.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is we've been talking about the feces issue here for quite a while now, says Wally Wargalit, executive director of the Gastown Business Improvement Society. Wally Wargalit. Wargalit says he was forced to implement his own initiative, affectionately dubbed the Poop Ferry program, after other waste collecting programs proved ineffective. Run by social enterprise Clean Start BC, the project was initiated last year before lack of funding brought it to a halt a few months in. In March, it was reinstated, and volunteers had their work cut out for them from the get-go. In Gastown, the program saw 155 cleanups through the month, while the downtown east side had a total of 267. Wargalit says the BIA is looking into analyzing the excrement to determine exactly how much is dog versus human. In some cases, they think they might know, he says, but regardless of the source, there certainly is a massive issue. By the end of the year, Warglet says the BIA will have invested between $30,000 and $40,000 just to keep the problem at bay. And while the program has led marked difference in numbers, the unaffordable cost means that its end might be in sight. In 2021, the city of Vancouver introduced its feces removal response program to address the fouling minefields, with patrols and collections carried out on weekdays across Chinatown, downtown, Strathcona, Gastown, and Hastings. 1,870 removals in the first 2 months of this year alone. So, I mean, I don't know. An increase in public.
Go back up. Yeah. Yeah.
How far?
To that where you read the numbers, the 18,000. Okay, stop there. The city says those numbers are in decline, with the amount of fecal removals totaling 19,900 in 2023, 17,670 in 2024.
So wait, let's see how many that is a day. 17,670 divided by 365 is 48 shit piles a day.
Yeah, 48 shit piles a day. I mean, if you could think about it like that, 48 people shitting in the street every day is not a lot. You know.
Adds up, though. Anyway, if folks are really in this dire of a strait that they're having to use a street or alley for this purpose, there probably are other things they need help with. The washings are helpful, but we also need to ensure that we're helping these people get the proper care and services that they need to be taken care of. Anyway.
So here he points out that safe spaces for the homeless are dwindling. Like all the money that's getting pumped in there, and it's just a never ending problem that's not getting any better. That's what's so frustrating. Nothing seems to be working.
High rental costs, high operating costs have caused all these places to close.
Oh, yeah. Welcome. I mean,
here's the thing: I wouldn't let him shit in my coffee shop either. So I'm part of the problem. I'd be like, get out of here, buddy. Move along.
NIMBY.
What?
No shit in my backyard. Nishimby.
Nishimby. Anyway, your turn.
All right. So I'm going to just start with a little video here. This guy's great. Market Mania. And he's already ranted.
Yeah, I know him. I'll try and get him on the show, but he don't respond.
He's ranting about like their GDP. So it's not about this graph. Everybody's seen it to death already, but he's talking about, that the failing government over the last 10 years and how we voted them in again and all that. But now this next couple minutes is a great rant.
Over and look at is this, which is Canada ranked almost dead last in growing GDP per person from 2014 to 2022. So just imagine if Canada voted in the same people who presided over this. Oh, wait, they actually did. Just so stupid, isn't it, when you think about it? It's just doing the same thing, expecting a different result. I mean, Carney is literally just the front man. All the other people behind him are exactly the same. So how can anybody say that this government is going to be any different? I mean, it's just hilarious. So if you look where Canada is, it's right behind even Japan. Yes, that's Japan that still hasn't recovered from 2 lost decades in a real estate bubble. And Canada is right behind it. Not in of it. So it just shows you what's going on. And then
it's worth, you can hit spacebar. It's worth mentioning that Japan got like fucking burned off the earth at the end of World War II too.
Right. I didn't realize I left so much of that other clip in there. I didn't really want to go there again because it's been talked about too much. But here we get into the better stuff.
Grim retail sales underbelly points to Bank of Canada restarting rate cuts, say economists. And this is the thing. They think that interest rate cuts are going to save everybody. It's just absolutely hilarious. I mean, it is not the case at all that will happen. I mean, carrying debt becomes less expensive and people are more likely then to pile on more debt, but that's not a net positive for your economy in the long run. It's a net negative, and it doesn't actually make anything better at all, as we saw during the pandemic. In fact, it made things a lot worse in the long run, and we're seeing that play out right now. But again, We're just going to repeat the same thing and expect a different result. This is obvious. The economics that people want is just repeating the same thing, just complete insanity, literal complete insanity by Albert Einstein's standards. So it's just absolutely crazy. And then, of course, wanted to show you this because this is just hilarious. So Canadian GDP shows huge growth, but 80% is now government.
Can you imagine that? I was going to ask you what the percentage was, but I mean, 80% of our GDP growth.
On the surface, Canada's economy is ripping higher. This was last year, remember. Annual real GDP growth climbed to 2.1% in Q2 2024, higher than the consensus estimate. It
So 100, like exactly a year ago.
follows 1.8% growth in Q1, which saw an upward revision from 1.7% originally reported. By itself, this sounds like the economy is just booming. Heck, it even beat expectations, but most readers likely noticed it didn't keep up with the population. When adjusted for the population, the picture isn't so rosy. Real GDP per capita declined 0.1% in Q2 2024, with StatCan noting it was the 5th consecutive decline. Per capita growth fell in 7 out of the 8 past quarters, marking a recession by some definitions. And this is the key thing here. Canada is already in a recession. The fact is that, yes, they haven't come out and said you're in a technical recession, but they don't have to anymore.
Look at this graph. Canadian per capita GDP. Not that I even agree with the GDP in general. I mean, I think it's a pretty bogus measurement. I just can't argue against it right now. I haven't done all that research again, but I mean, it's what we're using, right? It's still a comparative measurement for other countries, and at least, like, you know, I think in this case, it kind of highlights the problem. But this is that one in the end of 2023 there, or Q1 2023. And then look at all the negatives. I mean, that's crazy.
Because the government could just come out and spend more money or try and import more desperate people into Canada in order to rejuvenate their voting base, because that's working a freaking treat. I mean, just look at what happened with the last election. So it really shows where Canada is, this. And this, just think about it. Real GDP per capita, that ain't even accurate. So when you're looking at this, I mean, it's another government metric, right? This comes from Statistics Canada. But bear in mind, wealth inequality has moved so far apart since the pandemic. You basically have the 10%, the top 10% in Canada, having most the wealth and most the growth of their income, whilst everybody else is just getting utterly obliterated and destroyed. I mean, that is the reality of what is going on in the Canadian economy. And that is why things are so bad. It's really only the people who are at the very top, who are on a pile of cash, most likely generated by the housing bubble, who are most likely in their 60s or in their 70s, that actually are getting by okay. And even they don't realize they're about to be absolutely screwed over by the government.
All right, that's enough of that guy. Good one though. But I mean, have you seen the voting results by age group? It was pretty much what we thought. I mean, actually, I think the young ones were with the boomers. I think there was a weird like schism where the really young were with the boomers, and then the Gen Z and Gen X, or millennials and Gen X, sorry, were together.
The one I seen, it was just like under 55 was basically overwhelmingly conservative.
Yeah.
All right, my turn then.
Yeah.
All right, I'll jump over to this. Everyone's talking about this, so we might as well too. About the indigenous quashing our independence movement in Alberta. So this is from Keith Wilson, the lawyer. The legal process set out by the Supreme Court of Canada in the 1998 Quebec succession reference case directly addresses protecting First Nations rights, as does the resulting Clarity Act. Nothing that the Premier has announced in any way reduces First Nations rights. In fact, it gives First Nations more options for the future. Here are the legal details on the separation process and the First Nations rights and the role of their treaties. 1. All eligible Alberta voters can vote in an independence referendum, including members of First Nations. One person, one vote. No special treatment for members of First Nations RE voting in the referendum. 2, upon a successful vote for separation, the province of Alberta, First Nations within Alberta, the other provinces, and the government of Canada are obligated to engage in good faith negotiations to establish the terms of Alberta's separation. 3, Alberta's First Nation would then have the following options, at a minimum, to determine their post-separation status. A, the reserve lands remain owned by Canada, with treaties still administered by the government of Canada. Status quo, nothing changes. B, that the new government requests that the new government of Alberta assume the responsibilities of the government of Canada under existing treaties. Only material changes which government administers the treaties. Or C, negotiate a new framework agreement with Alberta to replace and modernize existing treaties. 4, importantly, the First Nations themselves would decide which option to pursue as part of the succession negotiations, but they do not have a veto on whether Alberta separates. 5, as confirmed in the map below, the government of Alberta owns almost all of the land and the oil and natural gas within Alberta, resulting from the 1930 Natural Resources Transfer Agreement. So you take from that about all these chiefs who want to stand up and fight for the status quo. Well, let's jump over here for a minute and just see how the status quo is going. This kind of goes close to home. This is actually from, this is the, so when I used to work on like emptying trucks that started to go through the ice, this was the reserve they were going to. This is about 2 hours from my hometown, not my reserve, but about 2 hours from my hometown. So here's the status quo. Pekajikam First Nation is suing Canada for $200 million for failing to provide basic infrastructure. Of the 521 housing units in Pekajikam, only 29 have piped water service, while 172 units have trucked water service and 320 have no water at all. Of the 12 fire hydrants in the community, only 4 are functional and connected to the water supply. Due to the lack of functioning fire prevention infrastructure, even a minor fire can quickly become dangerous. The allegations have not been tested in court. Chief Patty Peters said in a statement Thursday that he's been living without running water and a washroom since he was first elected chief at the age of 30. Now 68, the recently re-elected leader says his household has to wash from the same bowl of water each morning. This is the same situation as my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren and my entire community. So there's I think it says, did it say Red Lake? Yeah, the town of Red Lake. See, there's my hometown. The Northwestern Ontario First Nations filed $200 million lawsuit. The community about 4,000 members. Anyway, I don't think we need to there's nothing in these pictures that wasn't, these are just sort of pictures of the story that I just read, I think.
So what's the gist? You said it was the what? It was the normal, like normal conditions. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what these chiefs in Alberta are jumping on their head and freaking out about. This is what they want to maintain. Fighting with the federal government for every fucking inch, and you don't have your own money to dump into anything. You don't have, it's a shit show. You don't have even the right to develop your own land without their permission.
Well, the problem is that now you're seeing now people are coming out with, hey, this is how much you chiefs are getting, and this is how many billions Canada's spending on you. Let's audit you and see where the money's going. I mean, this is going to cause a big ruckus too, right? Now we're going to be separated again because people are fed up with all the billions.
Find out where the money's going because we don't even know how much of it. The chiefs are stealing a lot. There's probably people all up and down the chain from either side of the fence stealing money before everybody. You drive around the reserves and it's like, where's the money gone?
Yeah,
didn't get here.
Yeah,
didn't fucking get here. Anyway, you're right though. It's gonna get weird. It's gonna get the Indians riled up because it's gonna start. It's inevitably gonna get murky.
Well, let me finish your segment here because this is, I want you to see what's coming from the other side of things, right? Even though this is our great Destiny blog here, they're saying, does any province of Canada have a legal right to separate? The answer is no. So this is what's coming from I think there's going to be a huge battle as well because there's a whole bunch of people in the East that are just going to say, oh, you don't have a right to do that. And look at all this stuff. And then there's a bunch of people like what you said, these lawyers that are part of the movement that have their constitutional backing that says it's okay.
Well,
But
you'd need every province, but because Ontario would be the tough one. But if you get every province but Ontario, you'd be fine. I think Quebec would vote for it. Honestly, it'd be
Yeah.
crazy for them not to. You know what I mean?
So this was written in 2019, going through all these reasons why you can't, a province can't leave. But then I'm not going to read it all. And then you get to this. This is from like a couple March 30th. Help stop the lies. No province or territory can separate from Canada nor become the 51st state. So I mean, this is how help stop the lies. As if people are lying about, it might be a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation, but look at what she's got here. She's got all these UN references. Like, are you kidding me? Are you saying that like
The other thing is, who cares what any of the books say? If it, you know what I mean? It's just like none of these countries were formed with permission. None
right?
of them were
Right.
like,
I mean, this is what's so crazy about it. But they're talking about all these UN articles, like as if like it matters what this fucking UN article says about us splitting. Anyways, I really don't want to get into the details. I just want to share with you that like, it's gonna get crazy, man. I'm telling you, people have to thicken their skin and they get emotional ready for a massive backlash from the east and the left. They're gonna
and you can
call
couple it with like this.
it's already happening. Racist, you're tearing the country apart. I'm not trying to be negative, but it's going to come hard.
And there is inevitably going to be a bunch of racism that comes out of it. I mean, the Indian and white relations are going to come to an all-time low.
Yeah.
Since back to the 90s. I mean, we're going back to the 90s in all sorts of ways. So here's just a quick chart I wanted to show that just shows the current unemployment rates in Canada. So BC 6.2%, so that's just over 1 in 20. Alberta 7.1%, so that's almost like, what would that's still, that's still 3 in 20. No, 7, that'd be, oh god,
What's wrong?
that'd be like more like 7 in 20 probably. I guess it's 7 in 100. That's what it is. It's 7 in 100. 6 out of every 100. So 7 out of every 100, 6 out of every 100. That's like 1 or 2 out of every 20. 4.3% in your province, 5.3% in Manitoba, 7.8% in Ontario. I mean, that's almost 1 in 10. And that doesn't even include
this
people
might not
that have just left the workforce. So you could probably double most of these numbers.
Does this include the 200,000 that were hired by Elections Canada? I mean, and does this include
this is the latest
part-time work? You know what I mean? Like, because they just laid off a whole bunch of elections workers because of the election. So
yeah,
that would make a difference in that. I mean, I just don't even know where these numbers are coming from either. I
9.6%. Well, I'm assuming it's going by the amount of people that are the percentage of the population that is on unemployment benefits.
No. Because what if that passes and you still haven't found a job? You still got to be
You'd
included.
still be on that. But I still think this is missing half or a third of people. There's a bunch of people that have just like checked out and stopped telling you about it.
That's what I mean. They're like sick of looking for a job. Dude, I imagine what it would be like these days as a kid looking for a job. You put out hundreds and hundreds of applications. You never hear back. When we were kids, you'd walk the application in and you'd go back every week to follow up and show them that you got all this initiative and you want to work hard. And like, that's how you got your foot in the door. Like it was like
in the morning, ideally.
Yeah. So can't do that anymore. No, you can't do that anymore. Don't show up to the site. Don't do it. I mean, it's so different.
We're approaching 1 in 10 unemployment coast to coast.
Hire some more government workers.
And I think the report just came out that we just brought in like from April 24 to April 2025, we brought in 512,000 new Canadians. I don't know where they're going to work, but we'll give them money. It'll be fine.
All right. So here's the next one. It's have you seen this? CTV mainstream article here.
Ooh.
Rural areas face higher, more severe crime rate than Canadian cities. Statistics Canada. CTV News. It's scary to say the least. Rural areas see higher, more serious. I mean, so of course, all the people pushing back in the comments, you wanted Canada to be the crime country of the world, da 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 da. Go kiss Trump's ring again, CTV News. And of course, people are questioning it. What the fuck? Come on, fake news. We don't lock our doors and hear gunfire unless it's hunting season. Funny how this wasn't even a topic during the election. I wonder why it is. Because the media wanted Liberals in to save their subsidies. Feel bad for folks in the rural areas who are now experiencing the joy of the crime rates that we see in the city. Anyways, I went into that article. Actually, let me click on it. Let's see what comes up. Because they don't say. I'm just waiting for it to show up here. Share this tab instead. It's scary to say the least. Rural areas see higher, more severe crime rate than cities. Stat Canada, and it goes in here talking about the police reported crime rate was 34% higher in rural communities than in urban centers, right? In 2023. That same year, the violent crime rate, which includes homicides, blah, 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 was 1.7 times higher in rural areas. So you see all these stats here. They don't really get into the detail. They don't really get deep into it. I'm going to show you some deconstruction of it. In 2023, Saskatchewan recorded the highest rural CSI, that's that crime severity index, in the country at 204, followed by Manitoba and Alberta. So this is just like the timing of this article, basically lambasting the prairie provinces for their crime rate. And I don't know how much. The crime's too high everywhere, in my opinion. But
I think part of the problem is that there's just no comps.
Yeah,
this is why Alberta wants to bring in their own police force, because there's just not enough coverage by the RCMP, which are
So they get into like a personal an anecdote here about the Delisle Fire Department got their tools stolen and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's getting bad, right? But that's all they say. They don't really.
Here's the question: where did the thieves come from?
Yeah,
I bet you they came from the city.
So I go to the report that they got the information from, right? The police reported crime rate in the provinces and the CSI, the crime severity index, are consistently higher on a year-over-year basis in rural areas than in urban. So, because what was the feeling you got on the headline there from that it's increased?
Honestly, I seen that the other day, and I just assumed that would be the case. Because I didn't think of it as a violent crime thing, but because honestly, I was walking around my rural property when I looked at the article, and I was like, yeah, well, it's a lot easier to just steal people's shit out here if they're not home. A violent side of it would surprise me.
But my point is, what was the feeling, the vibe of the headline and the story?
I was
going up.
Man, if someone was here, I would shoot him right in the face.
It's going up, right? The crime in the rural areas are going up, right? The prairies are bad, big crime, right? That was the gist of it. Right after the election, right after the separation, they're like, no, the prairies are full of crime, way more than the cities even.
Well, so what my assumption before you get into the numbers, when I read it without going into it, is that just crime is not that high. And anyway, it's like, because I spend my entire existence in the rural areas, and I don't see a lot of crime.
Well, yeah, but put yourself in somebody's shoes that doesn't. That's a city, like it's somebody that's following the news, reading this, what they're going to think from the story. That's what I'm trying to get at here. This is manipulation, right?
Houses. Well, actually, I shouldn't say any names. Forget I said that. One time we lost a gun in the woods for like a few days. We went back for a few days and had to go looking for it.
Yeah.
And found it. But what's funny, now that you mention it, down by my one duck hunting spot, there's an old safe that's busted open. Wow. But it's not far from the Bow River. So I'm like, I bet you these bastards stole it and took it up the fucking river.
And how did they bash it in with hammers, sledgehammers, or something?
It's too old to tell, but to get it from where you have to hand bomb it from the trucks to where it is it would have been a real thing. It's a lot closer to the river.
So
it was just in the river and it got washed up in the flood.
So here they're talking about it here in 2023, just under 500,000 incidents of crime were reported by police services in rural areas in the provinces. This represents a rate of 7,300. I'm going to round numbers up here. incidents for every 100,000 population. So it's all per capita, right? So they're saying 7,300 incidents per 100,000, roughly 1/3 higher than the urban rate. So my issue with it is they're making it seem like this is an increase, like it's getting worse in these areas. Well, I mean, of course, per capita. I mean, look, how many people do you have spread out among, 100-mile radius where I am? It's like what, 100,000 people, if that. And when you look at the cities and the amount of people jammed into the small area, I mean, if they did this per square mile, it would look crazily worse for the cities. But I
All
know
right.
that,
So like Calgary could have like 20 times as many incidents as my whole county.
yeah, exactly. Anyways, the CSI is another way to measure police reported crimes and considers the relative severity of police reported offenses in addition to their volume. See note to readers. Similar to the crime rate, the CSI was 30% higher in rural areas than in urban areas. 99.76 is the two numbers. Huh. So the police reported crime rate is nearly 3 times higher in the north than the south. This is a weird variety and I guess because there's less again, right? There's less people again. So per capita, of course. I mean, if you go to Nunavut, it's probably way more per capita because there's way less people. Differences between the rural and urban, and I'm not saying this is good or justifying anything. I mean, of course, it's terrible all the way around. Between the rural and urban is varied across provinces. As with the crime rate, the largest gaps were observed in the prairie provinces. Alberta, 54% higher in rural areas, Saskatchewan, 44% higher, and Manitoba, 41% higher. Because we have the rural areas. The crime rate in northern regions of the provinces, 17,000 per 100,000, was about 3 times higher than in rural southern regions, which was 5,300. So, here's the note to readers. This analysis is based on police reported data from the Uniform Crime Reporting Survey. Several factors can influence police reported statistics. For example, an incident must come to the attention of the police. Differences between police services, such as unavailable resources or departmental priorities, policies, and procedures, can also impact police reported crime. For instance, some police services may use municipal bylaws to deal with minor offenses. So some crimes such as mischief or disturbing the peace may be underreported in urban areas. So that's just an interesting little side that, yeah, there's probably some stuff that's not, and I mean, who even reports crimes in the urban areas? I tried to report like bicycle theft and cars breaking into, and it was like, what? You're calling to report a crime? I mean, they treat you like you're a fucking idiot when you try and report a crime. So, I mean, I bet you it doesn't even get reported in the cities. That's another factor. I bet you more gets reported in the urban or in the, yeah. So anyways, I wanted to show you also, here's, I gotta stop sharing this and share my PDF. So I went into where they got this report from too, right? The statistics, the characteristics of this. So this is the actual report from police reported crime. I don't know if this is the same thing we went over when we were looking at the crime statistics from 2014 onward or whatever, but this is from 2023. So now it's come out in April 29th, 2025, going back a year or two to 2023. I just want to show you here because after reading all that, it doesn't tell you that, look at this, back in 2009, here's your urban police, the light blue, and rural is the dark blue, going back to 2009. Look at this. So you're at 7,500, and then it goes a little bit down, 2014, starts kind of cruising back up a little bit. Oh, it peaks in 2019, and then down a bit, and now it's heading back up a little bit. But it's just exactly at the same spot it was in 2009. Actually,
Interesting.
the urban is down. Now, that would be interesting to know why the urban is down, because we all know
the
there's
reason
more.
you talked about, because they're like,
Exactly.
oh, man, we're not sending anyone out for that.
Exactly.
Up the bike, buddy.
And here's the violent crime. Like, look at it. It's pretty steady, Eddie. I mean, it's up since 2018 in rural a little bit, but it's just barely above what it was like in 2009. So this just is all a bunch of bullshit, right? They're highlighting this thing that's been the same since like you could say it's been similar since 2009, and they're making it seem like a big deal. And of course, they break down all this stuff here, urban and I don't think there's any more. I looked for what I wanted to find was the amount. Well, then give me the amount of crime in these provinces, and we'll show you the difference of the actual quantity, not by sparse population, because how many people does Saskatchewan even have if you go by per capita? And then show the amount. But I don't have that, but I do have more on this because I went to something else to show you the where is it? Number of, and then I thought, they could have focused on this, right? So I went into Statistics Canada just to look at some other stuff. This is from 2014 to 2023, number of homicides. Oh, so Alberta's done pretty good. 107 homicides. This is now numbers, not per capita, right? This is the number of homicides in 2014. 2023. How many do you think, what do you think the increase is?
70. Was that number in a year?
Can't look. Yeah, it's a year, like the year 2014, there was 107 homicides in Alberta. Now like 10 years later,
162.
115. So it barely went up.
Went down. Didn't it go down?
No.
Was it 107
So
or
it's been
107?
11. It's been 10 years. This is a 10-year calculation, or not a 10-year survey here. So look at Ontario. Let's just use that for example. If you're talking about how bad crime is, like, okay, then what about Ontario as a province? 156 homicides in 2014 to 262. That's a pretty big increase.
Jesus.
You got almost 100 more homicides per year now.
That's like a 70% increase.
Look at BC. Where's BC? 89 to 123. That's a pretty big increase. I mean, maybe somebody should put this on a graph and say, hey, look at
Saskatchewan went up a fair bit though.
Yeah, Saskatchewan. Well, I mean, they were at 24. Now they're at 59. So
The
that
Indians are all riled up.
that doubled. Saskatchewan's not looking good either, but
That's probably almost all Indians, I bet. I'm allowed to say that. A lot of res on res shit.
yeah. Huh. So here's the total for Canada, 525, and then it went up to 778. Actually, 2022 was really bad, 882. I mean, look at that, right? That's a pretty damn big, like those should be increases by 5%, 3% increases. That kind of stat should be fairly steady, you'd think. But it jumped from 525 in Canada to 882. Now it's down to 778.
Yeah, 50% increase.
I mean,
Not good.
So, CTV, thanks for your fear mongering about rural areas when we're about to separate, you bastages.
All right, I'm gonna finish it up with this. This is my last piece of the day. Canada could soon have G7's first small modular nuclear reactors. Wouldn't that be something? Remember talking about this with Atomic Rod? Like,
I know we've been.
He's like, you could just have one reactor power like the whole neighborhood forever for free.
I hate to say it, but like this guy on this person commented on our geopolitics and empire. Check that out if people want to hear us ranting with somebody else. Your guests are morons, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be like too egotistical, but we've been ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff so far. So
we're also morons. So there's
almost everything. But yeah.
For the last 15 years, there's been a lot of talk about the possibilities of small modular reactors, mini nuclear plants that could be factory built and power an industrial site or small city. Now, Ontario is pressing ahead with a plan to build 4 of them, the first in the Western world. A lot of governments are watching to see how this goes. Significantly smaller in size and power output compared to traditional nuclear plants, small modular reactors, SMRs, are based on the same science. Fission used to generate heat. SMRs are basically shrunken down technology, or about a third or a quarter in size, but have many of the same principles. Ontario has given the green light for Ontario Power Generation to spend $7.7 billion to build the first of the reactors and common systems for all 4 next to the Darlington Power Plant east of Toronto. Modular plant called BMRX 300 was designed by America-based GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy. which is enough to power about 300,000 homes. Saskatchewan next. It's hoped the finished plant will show both feasibility and benefits of SMRs and encourage broader adoption. The Saskatchewan government is considering the same reactor model, said Frank. They're basically hinging their decision on whether to build their first nuclear reactor based on whether or not things go well in Ontario. So you might have a nuke plant there. Alberta and New Brunswick are also considering SMRs, and Ontario has been helping to try and export the technology to countries like Poland and Estonia. Frank says there's global commitment to triple existing nuclear capacity. I mean, it's about fucking time, isn't it?
Well, you know what it took? You know what the tipping point was?
What?
Re-upping Long Island, the Long Island plan, right? 3 Mile Island with for the Amazon, for all these tech companies needing like AI infrastructure. Like
totally. It's all for AI shit, data center.
So, and now all of a sudden, if they can do it, we'll do it for the people. You know, if it's good enough for big tech, it's good enough for the plebs.
Ontario government says the plants will help meet energy demands in the future. We're expected to rise by 75% by 2050. The province's Minister of Energy and Mines, Stephen Leck, says construction will employ 18,000 people, and the plant should last 65 years. But the project isn't without critics. Jack Gibbons says analysis by his group shows solar and wind would be much cheaper, also much less effective. He also believes going with the reactor designed by U.S.-based Hitachi is not good for national security. These new American reactors require us to import enriched uranium from the United States. That enriched uranium could be cut off by President Trump at any moment. How long do you think that it's going to take to build this thing? When do you think you need the uranium? Because I bet you Trump is long gone by the time you get this thing built. Some tells me it takes more than 3 years and 9 months to make.
I mean, what is their timeline? I mean, I could imagine with how long it takes things to happen in Canada. I mean, is this like a decade or two away, or what?
I'm saying even if they were going hard to the paint, it's got to be at least 3 or 4 years.
Oh, geez, at the best, I can't see them doing that.
Like, it doesn't look like much from the outside, but man, there's a lot of shit going on in there, and the safety and the inspections have got to be through the fucking
the regulations, the bylaws.
Yeah. So I would say that it's way past Trump, you dipshit. Anyway, we're not supposed to swear on YouTube. Some people told me so.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah, it's not happening. I mean, those other guys we just talked to, Top Laws from them, but he's like, he goes through and takes out all the trigger words.
I know, I can't believe that. I mean, should we get to that point where we have to do
that? Man, fuck that. All right, I'm done. You got one more, or we out of
here? I gotta do my title, man. I want to know what you know what you think of this.
It's gonna be gay. That's what I think. It's gonna make me think it's gay. Something gay. Is this?
No, it's your people. Your people are
that doesn't. We're not immune to being gay.
Your people are in getting involved here. So this popular BC park, like a really popular BC park, Joffre Parks, I'm sure you've heard of it, is closed to public to give First Nations time to connect with the land. How long are they closing it for, do you think?
2 weeks.
3 weeks. To give just to shut her down and only let the Indians in. I mean, do you have to show your Indian card? Like, how do you make sure that only certain types of people can arrive at this, can go visit this park? Like, you must have to turn a lot of people away. I mean,
I'm assuming it's just for the local Indians. Is it next to some land, or I don't know. At least it's not.
You might be wondering
dots.
what's with all the fun.
At least it's what?
At least it's not dots.
How racist of you. So it says they need time to connect with the land. I mean, that's great, but I mean, maybe let everybody connect to the land. I don't know. Joffre Park, or just give them all the land back. I mean, this is such a, we're not
just
a
let them in for free for a few weeks.
To recognize the importance of the Pipizuku, how would you pronounce that one, Indian? Darren, 7. Why they have a 7 in the middle of the word? I mean, Pipi-7 What?
Pipi-7
Okay. To the Lilwat Nation and Nequaqua The park will be closed to recreational visitors and the general public from April 25th to May 16th. So we're right in the middle of that. BC Parks wrote in the statement, this period will provide exclusive space for the Liwat Nation and Naquatqua to connect with the land. When the park is once again accessible to everyone, those over the age of 12 must reserve a free day use pass to enter. According to the political chief from that nation, Dean Nelson, he says, BC Parks has worked with First Nations to build a new relationship based on mutual respect and the recognition of our Aboriginal title and rights. Joffre Park lies within the unceded territories of the Lilwat Nation and Naquatqua and is integral to who we are as Naquatquak and Little Wattle, Nelson said. The establishment of Joffre Lakes Park has served to protect this unique and beautiful place from impacts of industrial activities. However, it has also disrupted our traditional use and access to these lands. Not everyone has been thrilled by the move to limit access to the park. Political commentator and former BC United candidate Caroline Elliott, for example, pointed out that it could be the beginning of a slippery slope.
Fuss around the closure of Joffre.
Can you hear that? Okay, here we go.
Wondering, what's with all the fuss around the closure of Joffre Lakes Provincial Park? 2 years ago, 2 First Nations unilaterally shut down the park, one of the most popular parks in BC, excluding any non-Indigenous British Columbians from accessing it, right in the middle of peak season. The nations had no legal authority to do so, yet the BC government not only acquiesced, but actually sent park officials to turn non-Indigenous visitors away. They repeated the closure last year, and again this year, and likely next year and the year after that too. Now, it's easy to think, what's the harm in this? Well, it's important to understand that the Joffre Lakes closure was done on the basis of the park being within the nation's traditional territory, where title has been asserted, but not established in the courts. So if we're now in a place where the mere assertion of title confers the right to prohibit public access to public spaces, then we all need to be aware that over 100% of BC's landmass is claimed as unceded traditional territory by one or more of the province's 200+ Indigenous groups. That means we have to ask, what would prevent more closures like this, not just in other parks, but in relation to any other public lands? The reality is it's divisive, it sets a terrible precedent, and it's just plain wrong. One thing it isn't is complicated. BC's beautiful provincial parks belong to all British Columbians.
What do
You might be
think?
wondering,
What do you think?
I think BC's got all sorts of problems without having any treaties. It's really could get weird over there.
I think it's going to get weird everywhere. I mean, government sanctioned racism. This is what the far left wants: division, alienation, and hate. They thrive
What
on
they
it.
should
I
be
mean,
doing is writing, coming up with treaties, but they don't want to do that in the modern world.
Tatanka, I'd say that's what most of their leaders want. They use it as a means of extortion. Their attitude then extends to the rest of their population, which is basically just a means of social poisoning. Or maybe it's Stockholm syndrome. Hard to tell because objective science is, for the most part, not allowed to be applied to the natives. It would apparently disrupt the never-ending grafting operations. So, sorry, what were you saying?
BC should probably get to work on figuring out some treaties, but no one ever wants to have a talk about that. What are we doing? Where are the lines? What's what are we doing here? What are we?
And I mean, that's an interesting opportunity too, right? To
Because
maybe
we're trying to do that now in Alberta and all these other places. You're glad you got them treaties. However they were signed, and it says that the territory is permanently ceded. So it's in BC you don't have that. In BC you got a can of worms that probably doesn't have to be a huge can of worms. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just that nobody wants to fucking deal with it. Sit down and give them some chunks and be done with it. You don't have the park. You have this chunk over here beside that, and
well, that's a good opportunity for them to assert some real ownership of the land, right? Not like the rest of the treaties now, right? When was the last treaty signed then? Like a long time ago?
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not so, but then, who does that? I mean, the Indians can't just do that, You need to, who does that? The king? Does the king have to be involved in that in our system? He might.
Well, that's part of the problem with this, right? Is it has to go all the way up to the top. So no, I mean, it's got to go through the BC government, and then the king's got to get involved. I mean, come on, as if that'll ever happen. Got to go through Carney first too. Like,
Yeah, I don't know where treaties come from. You know, it's like a different world nowadays. Before you could just whip out a piece of paper. You know, some lord could just be like, ah.
I mean, they signed. I mean, they signed. The UK and the USA have already signed tariff agreements. I mean, I heard that that's a thing right before the king's going to come to to say his speech from the what
When's
are
he
they
coming
called?
here? The pulpit. No, that's not
The speech from the
from the house. The throne.
house. The throne speech. How could I forget the throne speech to open up Canada? And so Trump and the UK have signed their agreement just in time for him to come and become emperor and Trump to become king of North America. And Carney will become maybe they'll change the name of governors to something more prestigious too.
You're gonna hang him.
Right? Governor. What would be better than a governor but less than a king? Like a duke, dukedom, lord of Northern United States of America, Lord of the Great White North.
I don't know, maybe
Jarl. Jarl? How about a Jarl?
A Carl?
No, Jarl is where Carl came from, but Jarl is the Lord in Norse.
I think we got to get out of here. Unfortunately, no show next week. We're on the road for an event, but we'll be back the week after that. We appreciate you guys. If you guys appreciate us and what we're doing here on the A-list, like, subscribe, share, comment, fight in the comments, and check out all our other stuff. I mean, you can support us too at alist.ca. There's a support button on the top there. It's just all value for value. So if you're getting some value from the news we're providing, the deconstruction, head over there and decide what it's worth. You decide any amount, monthly or one time or whatever you want. Head over to Grimericans.ca for everything else we're up to. Contact at the cabin for trips and events. Adultbrain.ca for audiobooks, print books, ebooks, and publishing. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.